Anna always felt like a shadow in her own family. At just 16 years old, she had already come to terms with the fact that her place in the household was secondary. The spotlight, as always, shone on her older sister, Sophia. At 18, Sophia was the epitome of perfection in their parents' eyes. Beautiful, accomplished, and bound for a prestigious university, Sophia had a way of capturing their attention effortlessly. Whether it was her academic achievements, her polished social life, or her seemingly endless stream of accolades, Sophia had become the family's pride and joy, the golden child. For Anna, it felt as though her life was defined by comparisons. Where Sophia's school trophies adorned the living room shelves, Anna's artwork was relegated to her bedroom wall. Family dinners revolved around Sophia's upcoming college applications, debate team victories, or her carefully planned future. Anna's own accomplishments, a decent grade on a tough exam, a small award for a painting, were acknowledged with a distracted, "That's nice, dear," before the conversation swiftly returned to Sophia. Even the everyday decisions reflected the imbalance. Sophia had the latest clothes, a phone upgrade every year, and a car for her senior year. Meanwhile, Anna made do with hand-me-downs, secondhand supplies, and endless reminders of how much had already been spent on Sophia. Anna could count the number of times her efforts were truly celebrated on one hand, and even then, those moments were fleeting. In middle school, she had won a regional art competition, a proud moment she had worked tirelessly to achieve. She'd imagined her parents showering her with praise, or at least displaying her winning piece somewhere in the house. Instead, they offered polite smiles before quickly turning the conversation to Sophia's debate tournament. That weekend, while Anna's prize went unnoticed on her bedroom desk, the entire family attended Sophia's event, cheering loudly from the front row. In high school, things only grew worse. Anna joined the track team, pushing herself to improve and eventually placing second in a local meet. She had hoped her parents would attend the award ceremony, but they were busy helping Sophia finalize her college applications. Even her casual interests became reminders of her place in the family. When Anna expressed interest in learning guitar, she was handed Sophia's old, out-of-tune violin instead, with a dismissive comment, "Use this, it's practically the same." The most painful moments, however, were the day-to-day dismissals. Her father's proud remarks about Sophia's academic prowess, her mother's gushing over Sophia's social grace. Anna felt invisible in her own home. She once tried sharing her passion for art during a family dinner, showing them sketches she had poured her heart into. Her father glanced at the drawings, gave a half-hearted, "Nice work, kiddo," and then turned back to discussing Sophia's latest award. Anna sat quietly, hiding the sting of disappointment behind a forced smile. No matter what Anna accomplished, it always seemed to pale in comparison to Sophia's endless stream of victories. Each dismissal built a growing weight on Anna's shoulders, a sense that her efforts would never truly matter to the people she longed to impress. Anna often found herself daydreaming of a life beyond the confines of her family's expectations, a world where she wasn't overshadowed by her sister. In her mind, she pictured herself thriving, free from the constant comparisons and dismissals. She longed for a space where she could simply be Anna, not Sophia's little sister, not the family afterthought, but her own person. When her best friend suggested a camping trip with a small group of classmates, Anna felt a flicker of hope she hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't just about the trip. It was about the chance to step away from her family dynamic, even if just for a few days. The idea of hiking through the woods, sitting around a campfire, and laughing with friends felt like a dream come true. She imagined the freedom of being in a place where no one knew about Sophia, where her every action wouldn't be weighed against her sister's achievements. Anna threw herself into the planning. She saved up money from her part-time job, borrowed camping gear from a friend, and even made a list of everything she wanted to do on the trip. For once, she felt like she was in control of something meaningful in her life. Her parents, however, barely noticed her growing excitement. At dinner, when Anna tried to share her plans, her mother nodded absent-mindedly, more interested in Sophia's college updates. Her father didn't even look up from his phone. It stung, but Anna refused to let it ruin her anticipation. For the first time in years, she had something to look forward to, something that was hers. The camping trip wasn't just a getaway. It was Anna's chance to carve out a piece of independence, to finally feel like she mattered, even if only to herself. 1 week before the much-anticipated camping trip, Anna was packing her gear in her room, excitement bubbling over as she double-checked her list. It was the first time in years she felt a sense of ownership over her plans. But just as she was imagining herself under the stars, her mother knocked on her door. "We need to talk," her mother said, her tone casual but firm. Anna put down her bag and followed her to the living room, where her father and Sophia were already seated. Her parents' expression seemed unusually bright, a clear indication that Sophia was at the center of whatever news they were about to share. "We've decided to go on a family vacation next week," her father announced with a grin. "We want to celebrate Sophia's college acceptance in style. It's going to be wonderful." Anna's heart sank. She tried to find the words, hoping this was a misunderstanding. "But my camping trip is next week," she said, her voice quiet but trembling. Her mother waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, you can reschedule that. This is more important. Family comes first, Anna. And besides, you'll love the resort. They even have activities for everyone, including you." Anna's stomach churned. Not only were her plans being disregarded, but she was also expected to help make arrangements. "We'll need your help with Sophia's celebration," her mother continued, oblivious to Anna's expression. "You can organize some activities and maybe take care of the smaller details. You're good at those kinds of things." Sophia didn't say much, simply smiling in her usual effortless way. For her, it was just another event centered around her achievements. Anna, meanwhile, felt the weight of her excitement collapse under the familiar pressure of being secondary to Sophia. Her dream of freedom slipped further away with every word. Anna clenched her fists, the frustration bubbling to the surface as she tried to stay calm. "This isn't fair," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "I've been planning this trip for months. You can't just expect me to drop everything because of Sophia, again." Her mother raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed by Anna's objection. "It's not about fairness, Anna. It's about family. Celebrating Sophia's accomplishments is important for all of us." "Of course it is." Anna muttered under her breath, her tone dripping with bitterness. "It always is." "What did you say?" her father asked, his tone sharp. "I said, it's always about Sophia," Anna shot back, her voice louder now. "Every single time it's about her. My plans, my feelings, they never matter." Her father exhaled loudly, crossing his arms. "You're being dramatic. This is a family vacation. We're all going to be there and you're part of this family, aren't you? Or do you only care about yourself now?" "That's not fair," Anna exclaimed, the words spilling out before she could stop them. "I've been looking forward to this trip for so long. For once, I just wanted to do something for me." Her mother leaned forward, her voice firm. "And you will. But family comes first, Anna. You'll have other chances for trips with your friends. Right now, Sophia needs our support. It's her big moment." "Of course it is," Anna said bitterly, tears stinging her eyes. She turned to Sophia, desperate for some semblance of understanding. "Do you really think this is okay?" Sophia shrugged, her expression nonchalant. "It's not a big deal, Anna. It's just a camping trip. You can go anytime. Besides, the family vacation will be fun if you just give it a chance." Anna's chest tightened as anger and sadness swirled within her. "It might not be a big deal to you," she snapped, her voice trembling, "because you always get what you want. But this meant something to me." Sophia's dismissive smirk didn't waver, and Anna could feel the futility of her words settling over her. Her parents exchanged glances, shaking their heads as if her emotions were nothing more than an overreaction. "Enough," her father said firmly. "We've made our decision. Pack your things for the trip, Anna. This discussion is over." Anna stormed to her room, slamming the door behind her. Her protests had fallen on deaf ears, as they always did. Anna spent the next few days drowning in a sea of tasks she never volunteered for. Her parents had handed her a long list of things to organize for Sophia's celebration: booking activities at the resort, arranging a small gathering for family friends, and even coordinating a special dinner in Sophia's honor. Each task felt like a reminder of how little her own wants and needs mattered to her family. Her parents didn't seem to notice or care that Anna's enthusiasm was non-existent. "You're so good at these kinds of things," her mother said brightly, as though compliments could mask the fact that Anna had no choice in the matter. Sophia, of course, barely acknowledged the effort. She simply nodded approvingly when Anna presented her with plans, as though it were only natural for everyone to revolve around her. With each passing hour, Anna's resentment grew. She hadn't even wanted to go on this vacation, let alone take charge of its arrangements. Every email she sent, every phone call she made felt like a betrayal of her own desires. The camping trip with her friends had been her escape, her chance to step out of Sophia's shadow. Now, it felt like her independence was being snatched away entirely. As Anna crossed off yet another item from the endless to-do list, a thought crept into her mind. Why couldn't she just leave? She didn't need to go on this trip. She could find a way to take back the freedom she'd been looking forward to. The idea seemed almost impossible at first, but the more she thought about it, the more determined she became. She wasn't sure how she would do it yet, but one thing was clear. Anna needed to take a stand. For once, she had to put herself first, no matter what her family thought. Anna sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the half-packed suitcase meant for the family vacation. The room was quiet, save for the faint hum of the air conditioner, but inside her, a storm was raging. Years of being dismissed, overlooked, and treated as an afterthought had built up like a dam on the verge of bursting. This wasn't just about a canceled camping trip. It was about everything her family had ever taken from her. Her mind wandered through the memories that now felt like open wounds, the countless birthdays spent in Sophia's shadow, the competitions where her victories were ignored, the endless sacrifices she made to keep the peace in a household that rarely acknowledged her worth. Her parents' words from earlier echoed in her head, "Family comes first." But hadn't she always put family first? And what had it ever gotten her? The injustice of it all burned in her chest. Her anger felt sharper than ever, not because her parents canceled her plans, they'd done that before, but because she had let them. For years, she had played along, staying quiet, keeping her frustrations buried to avoid conflict. But now, something inside her had shifted. The idea of spending another week catering to Sophia's needs was unbearable. Anna took a deep breath, the storm within her settling into something clearer. Resolve. She couldn't keep living like this. She wouldn't. The camping trip had been her chance to claim a piece of freedom, and though her parents had taken that away, they couldn't take away her determination. "I deserve better," Anna whispered to herself, the words a revelation. For the first time in her life, she felt ready to fight for what she wanted. She didn't know how she would do it, but one thing was certain: she would no longer let her family control her life. Anna's resolve solidified as she sat at her desk that night, the glow of her laptop illuminating her determined face. While her parents busied themselves with packing for the family vacation, she quietly searched for an alternative. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, hesitation creeping in for just a moment before she typed in the name of a quiet coastal town she'd always dreamed of visiting. It was nothing fancy, just a small, picturesque village with sandy beaches and cozy inns. But to her, it represented freedom. She found an affordable bus ticket that would take her there the morning her family was scheduled to leave for the resort. Her heart raced as she entered her payment information, a mix of nerves and exhilaration washing over her when the confirmation email arrived. It was done. For the first time, Anna had taken control of her own plans. Over the next few days, she meticulously prepared for her escape. She packed her suitcase carefully, choosing items that wouldn't arouse suspicion if her parents happened to glance inside. She disabled location sharing on her phone, knowing it would be the first thing her parents checked when they realized she wasn't with them. She even arranged for a trusted friend to cover for her if her family asked questions. Late one night, unable to sleep, Anna sat down with a pen and paper to write a letter. She poured out years of bottled-up frustration, explaining why she had to leave and how much it hurt to always feel like an afterthought. The words flowed easily, but as she finished, she hesitated. Leaving the letter would only invite her parents to come after her, and she couldn't let that happen. With a sigh, she folded the letter and tucked it into her desk drawer, unsent. This was her moment, and she wasn't going to let anyone take it from her. Anna closed her suitcase and lay down, ready to face the next morning with a mix of fear and determination. The road ahead felt uncertain, but for once, it was hers to choose. The morning of the family trip arrived, but Anna was already awake long before the sun peeked over the horizon. Her room was dimly lit by the soft glow of her bedside lamp, her packed suitcase resting silently by the door. She had rehearsed this moment in her mind countless times, but now that it was here, her chest tightened with both anxiety and excitement. She crept down the hallway, careful not to make a sound as she passed her parents' room. The faint murmur of their voices reminded her of the day ahead, their trip to celebrate Sophia, the endless chatter about her sister's achievements, and the growing pile of expectations that would once again be placed on her shoulders. But not today. Today, she was breaking free. The front door clicked softly as Anna slipped outside into the cool morning air. She took a deep breath, clutching her suitcase tightly as she walked to the end of the driveway where the cab she'd quietly arranged was waiting. Her heart pounded as she climbed in, every turn of the car's wheels taking her further from the life she was leaving behind. Arriving at the bus station, Anna felt a flicker of hesitation. What if they found out? What if they came after her? But as the bus pulled into the station and she stepped aboard, a wave of exhilaration washed over her. This wasn't just a trip, it was a declaration. She was finally doing something for herself. As the bus pulled away, Anna watched her town fade into the distance. A pang of guilt surfaced, mingling with the thrill of independence. But for the first time, the guilt didn't outweigh her determination. With every mile that passed, she felt lighter, freer, and more alive than she had in years. The journey had begun. As the bus rolled into the quiet beach town, Anna's heart fluttered with a mix of emotions. The coastal village was just as picturesque as she had imagined. Quaint streets lined with pastel-colored shops, the scent of salt air wafting through the breeze, and the rhythmic sound of waves crashing against the shore. It was a world away from the tension and expectations she had left behind. For the first time in as long as she could remember, Anna felt the stirrings of possibility. She pulled her suitcase behind her as she walked to the small inn she had booked. The building was charming, with whitewashed walls and bright blue shutters that gave it a cheerful, welcoming air. The receptionist, an older woman with a kind smile, handed Anna her key and directed her to a cozy room on the second floor. It wasn't extravagant, but it was perfect, simple, clean, and, most importantly, hers. Sitting on the edge of the neatly made bed, Anna let out a deep sigh. The weight of her decision began to settle in. She thought of her parents waking up to find her gone, the confusion and anger that would undoubtedly follow. A pang of guilt stabbed at her chest, but it was tempered by the undeniable thrill of freedom. She had made this choice for herself, and for once, she didn't regret it. After unpacking her things, Anna stepped out onto the small balcony that overlooked the ocean. The view took her breath away. The endless expanse of blue stretching out to meet the horizon, the golden sand below glistening in the sunlight. She felt a strange but welcome sense of control, as if the vastness of the sea mirrored the possibilities now open to her. Anna spent the rest of the afternoon exploring the town, wandering through charming alleyways and dipping her toes in the cool ocean water. She treated herself to a simple dinner at a beachfront cafe, savoring every bite as the sun set in a blaze of colors. As the day faded into night, she returned to her room, tired but exhilarated. For the first time in years, Anna felt like her life belonged to her. The guilt lingered, but it couldn't overshadow the joy of being free, even for a little while. She fell asleep to the soothing sound of waves, dreaming of what tomorrow might bring. The next morning, Anna woke up to the sound of waves crashing in the distance, the sun streaming through the light curtains of her room. After a quick breakfast at the inn, she decided to try something completely new, surfing. She had always been fascinated by the ocean, but had never had the chance to really experience it beyond the occasional family trip where Sophia dominated the itinerary. Today, the ocean was hers to conquer. She walked down to a small surf school by the beach, where an energetic instructor named Mia greeted her with an infectious smile. A handful of other teens were milling around, all looking equally excited and nervous. As the group practiced balancing on the sand before heading into the water, Anna felt a mix of exhilaration and self-doubt. She wasn't sure if she could do this, but for the first time, it didn't matter. There was no one to impress or disappoint but herself. Out in the water, Anna quickly discovered that surfing wasn't as easy as it looked. She tumbled off the board more times than she could count, but with each fall, she laughed harder, surprising herself with how good it felt to let go of perfection. One of the other students, a boy named Luke, noticed her persistence and paddled over. "You've got guts," he said, grinning. "Most people quit after the third wipeout." Anna smiled, feeling a rare sense of pride. "It's not about being good," she said, pushing her wet hair out of her face. "It's about trying." After the lesson, the group gathered on the shore to dry off, and Anna found herself sitting next to Luke. He was traveling alone, he explained, taking a gap year before starting college. There was an openness about him that made Anna feel safe enough to share her own story. She spoke hesitantly at first, but soon the words began to spill out about Sophia, her parents, the endless comparisons, and how she'd always felt like she was living someone else's life. Luke listened intently, nodding in understanding. "Sounds like you've been carrying a lot," he said. "But you're here now. That says something, doesn't it? You took a risk, and it brought you to this moment." Anna hadn't thought of it that way before. She had been so consumed by guilt and doubt that she hadn't recognized the courage it had taken to leave. Talking to Luke felt like shedding a heavy weight she didn't realize she'd been holding. Over the next few hours, the two explored the town together, sharing stories and laughter as they wandered through narrow streets and sunlit plazas. For the first time, Anna felt like she wasn't alone in her struggles. Her budding friendship with Luke reminded her that there was value in her choices, even if they weren't perfect. She had taken the first step toward a life she could call her own, and that was worth celebrating. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, Anna found a quiet spot on the beach, her toes buried in the cool sand as she gazed out at the endless expanse of water. The sky was a masterpiece of oranges, pinks, and purples, reflecting on the gentle waves rolling to shore. It was a moment of stillness, and for the first time in days, Anna let herself truly think. Her mind wandered back to her family. She pictured her parents, likely still confused and furious at her sudden disappearance, and Sophia, who would no doubt find a way to spin this into yet another example of Anna being dramatic. The familiar pang of guilt settled in her chest, but this time it didn't overwhelm her. She loved her family. She really did. But loving them didn't mean she had to accept being invisible. For years, Anna had bent herself to fit into the mold her family had created for her. She had stayed quiet when her achievements were dismissed, patient when her needs were overlooked, and supportive when Sophia's life inevitably took center stage. But what had it cost her? She thought about all the missed opportunities, the times she had silenced her own voice for the sake of peace, and the growing resentment that had eaten away at her. She drew a deep breath, letting the salty air fill her lungs. Her decision to leave wasn't about abandoning her family. It was about finding herself. She hadn't left to hurt them, even if that might be how they saw it. She had left because she couldn't keep sacrificing her happiness and identity to meet their expectations. That realization settled over her like the warmth of the setting sun. For the first time, she didn't feel like she had to apologize for putting herself first. As she watched the waves roll in and out, Anna made a promise to herself. When she returned home, things would be different. She would still love her family, but she wouldn't allow them to dictate her life anymore. She would speak up, set boundaries, and protect the version of herself she was starting to discover. It wouldn't be easy. Her parents would push back, Sophia would roll her eyes, and there would be plenty of uncomfortable conversations. But Anna knew it was worth it. The sun dipped below the horizon, leaving the beach bathed in a soft twilight glow. Anna stood, brushing the sand off her hands, and turned to head back to the inn. She felt lighter, like the waves had washed away some of the burden she'd been carrying for years. Tomorrow wasn't guaranteed to be perfect, but it was hers. For now, that was enough. Back at home, the morning of the family trip began with confusion. Anna's parents were bustling about, loading luggage into the car and double-checking itineraries, when her mother noticed something odd. "Where's Anna?" she asked, glancing around the house. Her father shrugged, assuming she was running late. But as the minutes ticked by, unease began to settle over them. Her suitcase wasn't by the door, her phone calls went unanswered, and her room was eerily tidy. When they opened the door to her room, it became clear. Anna was gone. Her bed was made, the closet half empty, and the quiet in the house felt almost accusatory. Panic set in quickly. Her mother paced the kitchen, dialing Anna's number repeatedly, each unanswered call heightening her anxiety. Her father tried to maintain his composure, assuring her that Anna must have left for some last-minute errand. "She'll show up," he said, though his tone was uncertain. When Anna's location sharing feature on her phone was disabled, her mother's worry turned to frustration. "What is she thinking?" she fumed, her voice rising. "This is irresponsible and selfish. We're supposed to be leaving." As the reality of Anna's absence sank in, the messages began pouring in. At first, they were worried. "Anna, where are you? Are you okay?" But as time went on, the tone shifted to anger. "How could you do this to us? Do you have any idea how much you're ruining this trip?" Sophia, standing off to the side, scrolled through her phone, rolling her eyes. "She's probably being dramatic," she said dismissively. "She'll come back when she's done sulking." By the time they were supposed to leave for the resort, Anna's mother was beside herself, alternating between anger and concern. "Why would she do this?" she demanded. But deep down, Anna's absence was beginning to speak louder than any unanswered call or ignored message. For the first time, her family was forced to face the possibility that Anna wasn't just being dramatic. She was making a statement. As much as Anna had relished her newfound freedom, the weight of unfinished business began to press down on her as the days passed. Sitting on the balcony of the inn one quiet morning, she gazed out at the ocean, letting its rhythmic waves soothe her restless thoughts. Her escape had been everything she needed, a chance to breathe, to find clarity, to feel like her own person. But now, she realized it wasn't enough to run away. If she truly wanted change, she had to go back and face her family. The decision wasn't easy. Part of her worried that returning home would undo everything she had gained. Would her parents dismiss her feelings as they always had? Would Sophia brush her off with a smirk and an eye roll? The thought made her stomach twist. But she knew avoiding the confrontation would only leave her trapped in the same cycle she had fought so hard to break. Anna packed her suitcase that evening, her hands steady, despite the knot in her chest. She had spent the past few days reflecting on what she wanted to say, and now the words felt clearer. She mentally rehearsed as she waited for her bus the next morning, picturing her parents' reactions and preparing herself for the inevitable pushback. She would tell them how years of being overshadowed by Sophia had made her feel invisible. She would explain how their constant dismissals of her needs had chipped away at her confidence. And she would make it clear, calmly but firmly, that she deserved to be seen and heard just as much as anyone else in the family. The ride home was filled with a mix of nervous energy and quiet determination. Anna stared out the window, watching the landscape blur by, her thoughts focused on the confrontation ahead. She wasn't sure how her family would respond, but for the first time, she felt ready to demand the respect she had always deserved. When Anna walked through the front door of her house, the air inside felt heavy with anticipation. Her parents were waiting in the living room, their faces a mixture of relief and simmering frustration. Sophia sat on the armrest of the couch, scrolling through her phone, barely glancing up as Anna entered. Her mother stood first, her voice sharp and tinged with concern. "Anna, where have you been? Do you have any idea how worried we've been? You can't just disappear like that." Her father followed, his tone sterner. "We thought something happened to you, and then we find out you just left? Do you even care about what this has done to the family?" Anna took a deep breath, her heart pounding. This was it. She wasn't going to retreat this time. "I left," she said calmly, "because I needed to, and I think you know why." Her parents exchanged confused looks, but Anna pressed on. "For years, I've felt like I don't matter in this family. Everything revolves around Sophia, her accomplishments, her needs, her life. I've tried to be patient, to stay quiet, but I can't do it anymore. It's exhausting." Sophia raised an eyebrow, finally looking up. "Oh, come on, Anna. Is this really about me? You're just being dramatic." Anna turned to her, her voice steady but firm. It's not just about you, Sophia. It's about how everyone in this family treats me. Like I'm invisible. Like my life doesn't matter as much as yours. I deserve better. Her parents looked stunned, their initial frustration giving way to discomfort as Anna's words sank in. Her mother tried to interject, but Anna held up a hand. I'm not saying I don't love you all, but I can't keep living like this. Things have to change. I need respect and I need space. The room fell silent, the weight of Anna's words hanging in the air. For the first time, her family didn't have an immediate response. They were finally listening. And for Anna, that was a step in the right direction. The days following Anna's confrontation were tense. Her parents, unaccustomed to hearing her speak so candidly, didn't know how to respond. Her mother avoided eye contact during meals, her usual warm chatter replaced with awkward silences. Her father, typically stern and decisive, seemed lost in thought more often than not. The weight of Anna's words had clearly unsettled them, but acceptance wasn't immediate. At first, her mother tried to brush it off. You know, we've always loved you, Anna, she said one morning over coffee. Maybe we didn't say it enough, but you're just as important to us as Sophia. Anna nodded, though the words rang hollow. It's not just about saying it, Mom, she replied gently but firmly. It's about how I've been treated, how my needs have always come second. That has to change. Her father was less defensive, but his attempts to justify their actions stung. We thought we were doing what was best for the family, he admitted one evening. Maybe we didn't realize how much we were neglecting you. Sophia's reaction was different. At first, she seemed dismissive, rolling her eyes whenever the topic came up. But over time, Anna noticed a shift. One evening, as they sat together on the back porch, Sophia broke the silence. I didn't know, she began, her voice uncharacteristically soft. I didn't realize how much it hurt you. I thought everything was fine. Anna turned to her, surprised. It wasn't, but it's not all your fault. You were just there. It's how Mom and Dad set things up. Sophia nodded, a flicker of guilt crossing her face. Still, I'm sorry. I could have done more to make you feel like you mattered. The apology was small, but meaningful. For the first time, Anna saw cracks in Sophia's perfect exterior, a willingness to acknowledge her role in their family dynamic. It wasn't a complete transformation, but it was a start. As the family grappled with Anna's newfound boundaries, they began to reflect on the habits they had formed over the years. Conversations shifted, albeit slowly, to include Anna's thoughts and feelings. It was an unfamiliar adjustment, but Anna could see the effort, however hesitant, in her parents' actions. They weren't perfect, but they were trying, and that, for now, was enough. A week after the confrontation, Anna's parents called her into the living room. The atmosphere was calmer, the tension of the past days replaced with something softer, regret. Her mother was the first to speak, her voice trembling slightly. Anna, we've been thinking a lot about what you said, she began. You're right. We've been unfair to you, and for that, I'm so sorry. Her father nodded, his tone quieter than usual. We didn't mean to make you feel invisible. It's just, we got so caught up in everything with Sophia. But that's not an excuse. You deserved better from us. Hearing those words felt like a balm to the wounds Anna had carried for so long. She looked at them, her emotions a mixture of relief and caution. Thank you for saying that, she replied. But it's not just about words. I need things to actually change. Her mother reached out and squeezed Anna's hand. We'll do better. We promise. Later that evening, Sophia knocked on Anna's bedroom door, an unusual hesitation in her usually confident demeanor. Can I come in? She asked softly. Anna nodded, setting aside her sketch pad. Sophia sat on the edge of the bed, fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. I've been thinking about what you said, she began. About how things have been between us. I didn't realize how much I was a part of it. I'm sorry, Anna. I should have been a better sister. Anna studied Sophia's face, sensing the sincerity in her words. I appreciate that, she said, but things need to change. I can't go back to how it was before. I get that, Sophia replied, and I'm going to try. Anna felt a glimmer of hope. The apology didn't erase the past, but it opened the door to something new. Cautiously, she allowed herself to believe that their family dynamic could shift. She wasn't ready to fully forgive, but she was willing to see where this path could lead, on her terms. In the weeks that followed, Anna began carving out a life that truly felt like her own. Inspired by the freedom she had tasted on her trip, she signed up for a beginner's photography class at the community center. Her first project was capturing the sunsets that she had fallen in love with at the beach, each image a reminder of her journey toward independence. She also couldn't resist continuing what had once seemed impossible: surfing. While there were no waves in her suburban town, she found a nearby indoor pool that offered lessons. Every time she balanced on the board, wobbling but determined, she felt the same exhilaration she had felt during her escape. For Anna, it wasn't about mastering the sport. It was about mastering her fears and embracing the joy of trying something new. At home, things weren't perfect, but they were better. Her parents were making an effort to include her in conversations, genuinely asking about her interests and listening to her thoughts. Sophia, though still prone to moments of self-centeredness, had started inviting Anna to spend time together, like going for coffee or watching a movie. These small gestures showed Anna that her family was trying, and she appreciated it, even if the wounds weren't fully healed. Anna also made it clear that her boundaries were non-negotiable. She refused to take on tasks that felt one-sided or to allow her needs to be dismissed. When her parents or Sophia overstepped, she calmly but firmly reminded them of her expectations. Over time, they began to respect her stance. One evening, as Anna flipped through the photos she'd taken for her class, a sense of pride washed over her. For the first time, she felt truly hopeful about the future. She was no longer just Sophia's sister or her parents' second priority. She was Anna, with dreams, goals, and a voice of her own. The road ahead felt wide open, and she was ready to embrace it on her terms. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales of loyalty, love, and the incredible bonds between humans and animals. Join us as we share stories that remind us of what truly matters in life. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment.